welcome to the Clone Boys podcast. This is episode
Hello.
2. Um, I realized from editing the last episode, we didn't even explain what this podcast was, and as of this, we don't have like a episode 0 or like a trailer or anything. We're discussing Star Wars: The Clone Wars. That's that's kind of what the plan is. Yeah, we had all of that explained in our episode 0 that I failed at recording, but yeah, that's that. This is a great start to the podcast and definitely not a disaster of a start. But we'll do it. One thing I do want to point out, just because I found this a little interesting, I didn't realize that the Clone Boys podcast is the name of another podcast. Um, and they also it's also on YouTube, but they only have like 2 episodes. I listened to them. They go through Kenobi. Um, it's fine. I don't agree with all of their takes, but there are some things that they say that I agree with. I guess to you guys that are a part of that Clone Boys podcast, if you really want to, you can reach out to us. I got my email on my YouTube. Yeah, just reach out to us and we might think about getting you on for an episode. That'd be pretty cool. Have a discussion with you guys.
Clone Boys podcast episode.
Yeah. I mean, we're just
Holy
going
Double
through
the
the
Clone Boys.
episodes, the arcs, so that'd be pretty cool. So this episode 2, is going through the movie. This is a movie.
This is a movie. Hey, could I share a quick story about the movie?
Definitely.
Yes.
So, I'm going to take us back in time. Back to the year 2007 or 2008.
Okay.
I was probably 7, 8, or 9 around this time. And I was at the theater with my dad watching a movie. I don't remember what this movie we were watching was. But one of the trailers that came up was for Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the movie. And I remember it pretty well because I just remember sitting there looking at this because I was a massive I mean, I still am, but I was a massive Star Wars fan. And my dad was a big Star Wars fan too. And we were watching this trailer, and after it got done, we both looked at each other and we were like, that looks like crap.
Yeah, well,
Now, I didn't say crap because I was too young to say the word crap at that point because I guess little kids can't say the crap word. But
you said that looks like doo-doo.
that looks bad. That looks really bad. But yeah, like I never went to see this in the theater. I never saw this until after I had already seen the first episodes of the Clone Wars. On TV and DVD and whatnot, and then I ended up watching the movie. So that was later in my Clone Wars viewing history.
So I remember saying this in our episode 0. I don't know why I have that weird memory of thinking that I saw the movie in the theaters. I actually didn't. And I remember this because as a kid, the series started coming out after the movie. We never got to see the movie, but I was just like, "Oh, they're playing little like 20-minute snippets of the movie. That's really cool." And then we got like 2 arcs in, like the end of the Malevolence arc happened, and I was just like, "Wait, this is a long movie. What the heck?" And then I realized, "Wait a minute. That's not a movie. This is a show."
Oh man, wow. I had a DVD. I got something that I thought was the movie. It was actually the first 4 episodes of the show.
Oh, that's cool. Wait, first 4 episodes. Oh, sorry, I was thinking chronologically.
So, Ambush,
and
then Malevolence.
Yeah, so chronologically it's Ambush and then 2. It's either Ambush and then 2 more episodes, or it's 2 episodes and then Ambush and then the Malevolence arc. I'd have to look at that.
Yeah, we'll get there. I have some cool historical stuff for Malevolence when we get there.
Yeah.
So I saw this movie in theaters with my mom and my brother. and my dad. I think it was a whole family thing. I think all four of us went to the theaters to watch this movie. But my dad refused to watch more. Well, he didn't refuse more. He didn't really watch the show with me and my brother, mostly because it was on at like 8 in the morning on Saturdays, and he wanted to sleep in. So understandable. But yeah, no, we all watched the movie together. Um, and I have pretty fond memories of the movie. Rewatching it definitely showed me that it was not as great as I remembered it, but I still I still connect good memories to this movie. I liked I before I get too deep into the woods in this one, I like this movie kind of, maybe, I don't know.
That
And
was an interesting response. I
on
like
a
it. Wait, maybe. I don't know.
on a subjective note, I like this movie. Objectively, it's not the best.
All right.
How's that?
Understandable.
Um, man. So I just finished taking my notes for it. Yeah, I didn't have a lot of time this week to take notes, but I took my notes. I just finished it, but I also saw the movie earlier, and I was just like, man, that movie's stupid. And then I started taking notes, and I was like, wait, no, this is actually, I like the start. Um, I really, really like the premise. So, I
Yes,
guess
I like the
let's
premise also.
yeah, I guess let's just stop wasting time and let's just get right into it.
Let's jump in.
So the notes that I took make they're a lot more focused on the structure that I want to go for. So it should be a lot faster. I know I said last time I had like 20 something pages of notes. This time it's down to 7, which should be easier, and it's kind of structuring out how I want to go through the episode. We're just gonna kind of start going through the episode and start talking about things as we come across them. Um, but yeah, we'll try and go fast enough that this doesn't keep us here for 3 hours. So yeah,
Right.
let's start with. Let's start at the beginning. So there's that intro. It's the same as we see in the show, except we don't have a title card. So this
No wise proverb.
yeah, no wise proverb. I guess we'll have to interpret the theme ourselves and then talk about it. But I guess I'll just get started right with the narration. I wrote it all out because I want to talk a lot more about it. So this is narrated by Admiral Yularen. He says, "A galaxy divided. Swiftly striking after the Battle of Geonosis, Count Dooku's droid army has seized control of the major hyperspace lanes, separating the Republic from the majority of its clone army." Stopping there, right? That's just the first sentence. I'm going to direct you guys to. There is an image that I posted in the chat, I believe. If not, Kyle, can you post that? There's this
I'll
image
post
of
that real quick.
there's this image of the galaxy. Now, I thought that this was a non-canon image, which I guess technically it is, but was made by someone in 2019. It covers pretty much everything canon up to Mandalorian season 2. So, yeah, this is a really nice image. It's very helpful. So I'm going to zoom in on it. This is Coruscant right here. And this is the planet that we were just talking about, Christophsis. I've also highlighted the 3 other planets that we have in the movie. There's Teth, Tatooine, and then I also highlighted Camino, because Camino is a very big part of this movie, even though it's not really just explained very well. So, what I like about the first arc being about Christophsis is the fact that it's close enough to Camino that they could have gotten a lot of troops out very quickly to Christophsis, but not many other places. So this was just a great spot for the Separatists to have hit that the Republic could have easily started defending, right? I've got a few images. So all of that in place.
Yeah.
This is another image showing where's Christophsis? I don't see it on this image, but
Christophsis is right to the left of Tatooine and Geonosis.
Yeah, it would be in this line.
It's on a major lane.
Yeah, this is the Carillion run. I think it's a little bit further down, but yeah, this image just shows where Camino is because it's not in it, it it's
It's
not
not on
in
the main
this.
map because, of course, it's not mapped out where it
Yeah, it's
is.
not mapped out in Attack of the Clones, so this image just shows where it's at. Um, so I
It's right
guess
above Rishi.
with that said, let's just continue with the narration. With few clones available, the Jedi generals cannot gain a foothold in the Outer Rim as more and more planets choose to join Dooku's separatists. So, the concept being, all of these lanes that you see in the Outer Rim, all these lines, are the hyperspace lanes that connect the planets together. These are the lines that you travel when you chart your courses to get from planet to planet. So for
Essentially like a
example,
highway.
yeah, for example, when Anakin and Ahsoka leave Christophsis in the movie to go to Teth, they take this hyperspace lane to get all the way to Teth because that's the safest method of travel. That they're basically the roads and the highway of the galaxy. Um, so the idea of the plot being after the Battle of Geonosis, Dooku and the Separatists began to take as many of these lanes over as they can, right? Because not only is that going to allow them control over how troops get from A to B to C, but also if they control where you can travel, they can control who eventually falls to them, right? Who eventually they can take, how much area of land they control in the galaxy. I guess area of space they control of the galaxy, and if they control more space, then obviously they can win, right? So I'm going to take us to this is a map of the Clone Wars, right? The galaxy during the Clone Wars as it started and as it was going on. And I guess before I talk about
Ooh,
this, I'll
I have
continue.
another really great map.
Yeah, I think that's the map that you sent me, Kyle. So
I have another one that looks even better. I'm just taking a look at it now. Give me a minute.
okay, um, and this one here, I will,
This one makes a lot more sense.
yeah,
So here, I'm
I
going to
will
send this to our
post.
main chat.
This is the one that I'm showing on the screen now.
Oh crap, it doesn't. Yeah, that one is later in the Clone Wars.
Okay, this is later in the Clone Wars, but it's still
Yeah, that's
generally
like right before the events of episode 3,
well.
but
It
it's
says yeah,
generally
20 to 19 BBY. This is I'll explain because it doesn't change too much. I mean, the only reason why the hut space gets bigger is because of the Republic's control of it. I guess let's continue with the narration for a second. While the Jedi are occupied fighting a war, no one is left to keep the peace. Chaos and crime spread, and the innocent become victims in a lawless galaxy. Crime Lord Jabba the Hutt's son has been kidnapped by a rival band of pirates. Desperate to save his son, Jabba puts out a call for help, a call the Jedi are cautious to answer. So the idea being, um, Count Dooku, he kidnaps Jabba the Hutt's son. I would assume he was on Tatooine, but he's, I guess, somewhere in Hutt space, and now he's being held for ransom on Teth. And Jabba, not knowing that the Separatist kidnapped his son, basically is just like, "Hey, Republic, help me, and if you help me, I'll let you use this space to move your troops."
But if you can't help me, I'm sure Count Dooku can.
Yeah. So if the Separatists can gain control of all of this Hutt space, then I mean they basically can maybe not win the war before it started because all of
But
this
they have a
space
lot
is
of
Republic, but like they basically turned it so it's very very evenly split.
yeah, they have a lot of operating space.
Yeah. Um so a lot of people really don't like this being the premise for the movie. I don't like it either. But after understanding what that means, it's like, oh, okay, so Dooku's making this really tactical decision to pretty much gain a stranglehold over the galaxy in a way kind of similar to the way that the Empire does it, but obviously the Empire is uh, kind of taken over from the Republic, right? The Republic becomes the Empire, so it's like the reverse of this. Plus, I mean, at the same time, the Separatists are disbanded because Anakin kills them all. But like, yeah, I like this as a premise. I think it's actually a really thought out, really, really interesting premise. However, the rest of the movie happens after this.
Right. I like this premise too because it's, I mean, this is very strategic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because in
I
any
love
war,
battle strategy.
yeah, I mean, the only way that they can win the separatists, they have, I mean, they have these endless armies, but they have to spread the republic as thin as they possibly can, and then strike, cut off their supplies, and either let them wither on the vine or destroy them while they're spread out. Take them one at a time. Um, there have been several battles in history. The one that's coming to mind is one during the Civil War, which is the siege of Petersburg, where essentially the Union spread the Confederate lines, kept spreading out, kept forcing the Confederates to spread their line out to the point where they couldn't defend a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what's going on. I know that happens later in the war too, where the separatists spread the republic so thin so they can attack Coruscant.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of starting here. If they can get control of Hutt space, that forces the republic to have to really spread out to cover that, so they don't so the Confederates just can't the Confederates / the separatists can't just strike here, there, everywhere, and spread them so thin that they'll just be cut up easily.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the
yeah,
intro, right? I mean, all of that is set up in the intro. I really wish that was explained like a lot more thoroughly, but yeah,
the
once
map
you really
helps. The map
understand what's
helps.
happening, yeah, that's one thing that I really don't like about Star Wars is the fact we don't have a canon map of the galaxy, right? Like Disney, come on, do it. Make a map of the galaxy. I'll buy it and I'll frame it on my wall. Like I will happily do that because this is a really cool universe and I love it. But
I think there actually is. There is maps of the galaxy out there somewhere, probably on like Displate, maybe.
there are quite a few maps made of the galaxy, but they're either legends or non-canon, just in some
I mean,
way,
like
right? Like
the
the ones
ones
that I
that you have
showed.
here.
Yeah, this one that I showed, I really like this map. I think it's really cool. The problem is it was made by a fan on Reddit,
Mm-hmm.
so
Right.
it's not canon. I mean, I would frame this on my wall, but yeah. I guess let's get started with the movie. So in the first installment of the Clone Wars series, we are ending the Battle of Christophsis. So if you remember from the hidden enemy, most of the weapons depot was destroyed by Slick, but their heavy ion cannons were salvaged.
Mm-hmm.
And in the movie, they're being used very effectively. So Loathsome, he pulls back his troops so that they could activate their shields, and then they could advance onto the ion cannons and destroy them. And as that's happening, sorry, I should have taken more images, but Ahsoka, she makes her way to Anakin. There's like this communications issue.
Well, here's
Coruscant.
a problem.
Yeah.
Here's a problem I have. I'm sorry to interrupt. I feel bad
Oh,
about
you're
that.
good. You're good.
Um, we didn't they just force the separatist blockade to go away, and then they land their troops and they're like, okay, our fleet is gonna go away, bye, and they just leave them there. That is stupid. I'm sorry. And then the separatists just come back. Like, what the heck?
Okay, so I wrote this. I don't have an image for it, but I wrote this a little bit later because it's when Yoda arrives. It's explained that Admiral Yularen says to Yoda, he says, "It will not be easy to breach the blockade. It's what stopped our relief ships before." And it's just like, oh, okay. I like the connection to episode 216, right? Like, I like that you're talking about that episode before it's even happened, but like why is the blockade gone? Or why is the blockade still here? I thought that you had enough that you were able to get troops on the ground. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a weird detail, and I think it's a problem because it's not explained. But I mean, given
Like,
that intro, I trust them to have explained it.
I guess I could offer like a headcanon, but that's not an official explanation. So
Right.
like my headcanon would be like, they breached their defenses, they got stuff on there enough to at least establish a good defense, and now they've reformed their blockade behind them, I guess. I don't know.
I think that's not even headcanon. I think that's just the canon that you have to accept because that's all that makes sense.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the Republic breached the blockade enough so that Anakin, Obi-Wan, and their troops could get on the ground, and they were just like, yeah, we're gonna fight this really small battalion, or fight this entire planet with this small battalion and no reinforcements. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
But then again, I guess supply issue, that's how spread out thin they are.
Yeah, I can see that.
I guess that would make sense in terms of that, but also you don't send a battalion to fight an army.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
There's a
Anyways,
battle called Stalingrad, and that
oh
didn't
no,
work end well.
yeah. I remember doing a
But then again,
project
they
on
were
that in high
whittled. They were
school.
essentially whittled down. It was an army versus an army, but that's how
I
it
thought
ended
you were
up.
about to say, I thought you were about to say, I remember that. That wasn't fun. I was
That
like,
wasn't fun,
what?
yeah. I remember
Yes,
doing
come
that
on
back
now.
in the
I was there.
40s.
I fought for the glory of the motherland. There, I know.
Uh,
Why am I
Beautiful.
Scottish?
I don't
He's a Russian Scot.
The Russian Scotsman. Now there's a movie right there.
So Anakin and Obi-Wan, they're fighting in this battle, and they talk about how Obi-Wan is just like, my new Padawan's coming. Anakin, you should put in an order for one. And then Ahsoka gets there, and she's like, well, hey, Anakin, I'm your Padawan.
And he's
Don't
like,
say it like that.
what?
Don't say it like that.
Yeah, please.
Wait, hang on. Oh, you can put in an order for a pet.
Yeah, you can just order one. Be like, yo, I want a Padawan, dog.
You just
Hook
text
me
up
up.
Yoda, and Yoda's like, "Hey, got any up for sale?"
I'll pay you 50 credits and a Melu run
It's
to
so
get me a
like, sorry, I
to
just
get
want
me
to go
a
back because the way that you said "what" for Anakin, it reminded me of the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 thing. But Anakin,
What?
he's like, "What?" And Ahsoka's just like, "Now I know that sounds bad," and
sounds
Anakin just
bad.
kills her.
I love it.
just shoots her.
Oh, it'd be so
Oh man.
funny.
Somebody make an edit of that.
I might. Um.
This
So yeah, the shields, they're up and they're just like, oh crap, we gotta fight the war, we gotta beat them up. And so the plan is ultimately that what is it? Ahsoka says like, hey, let's
why don't we just go under the shield?
yeah, she's just like, hey, what if we just go under. And Anakin, who is, he's not very happy with the idea of Ahsoka being here. He's just like, I don't want to train a youngling. Um, and so they don't really like each other, but Anakin does agree with her plan, and so they go out and they're just like, hey, we're gonna do this. But we discover that Jabba the Hutt's son, who he never has a name in this. I'm just gonna keep calling him Stinky because that's what they call him. Stinky's being held on Teth.
Wait, is he never
He's
named
never
in the
named
movie?
in the episode in the movie.
Well, I know his name. How do I know his name?
What is his name?
Rada the Huttlet.
Really?
Rada.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna call him Stinky because that's what I've been calling him throughout all my notes. So
Weird. Hold on. Now I'm gonna wait. Where do we find out his name?
so while you look that up, Stinky, he's put on Teth. This is this monastery. I don't remember.
Okay, I have some history here.
Okay.
Once colonized by monks of some order I can't pronounce, the empty monasteries later fell to the Hutts.
Oh, okay. That's why they look kind of hut-like.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that's the case. I could be way off base on that, but yeah, it's this monastery on Teth. So, okay. Now to get to my first like really big frustration. Ahsoka and Anakin, they sneak through the army by hiding under a trash can. I mean, I say trash can, it's a box.
Yeah, it is a bot.
Just like it just works. It works. And
It's like
then
listen, it's worked for Solid Snake for decades now. Of course it'll work for them.
then it gets worse. They they lift up the trash can and they start walking like it.
Like I said, it's
Solid
worked for
Snake.
Solid
Bad.
Snake.
So the plan is they're doing this. They're trying to get to the shields, or like the shield generator.
Yeah.
And while this is happening, Obi-Wan and General Loathsome, General Loathsome pins
Obi-Wan
him
has
down.
this
He's like,
great
"I
idea.
surrender. We're gonna talk."
We gotta
Woo, war
discuss terms of
crimes.
surrender.
What did I write about? I know that Obi-Wan is stalling, but his methods of stalling, they show a genuine concern for the treatment of the clones, right? I mean, he talks about it. So
You
in
gotta,
talking
you gotta
about
provide.
the trusty war crime guide that I made, I made a guide that told me all of the United Nations war crimes, like everything that they spelled out. And hearing Obi-Wan talk about like, what do you have? Do you have the space to? Do you have the quarters for all of my men? Do you have the resources to feed them all? And I'm just like, man, that's really cool because like our world considers it a war crime if you don't treat your prisoners properly, and if you tell them that you have no place to put them, right? If you tell them that no quarter will be given, that is a war crime. And so I like that Obi-Wan, he cares enough about his clones to be like, the battle's still going on, and I know I'm just stalling you, but I'm going to go so in depth into this stalling that like I'm going to show concern for my clones. And it's like, oh, that's so
Right.
cool.
Well,
I'm gonna debate terms for my clones.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was really
wouldn't that
cool.
be a false surrender, which would be a war crime?
Is that a false surrender? Let's see.
I will accept nothing except your unconditional surrender.
Looking through attacking or bombarding. Boop-a-dee-dee.
General Loathsome being. Well, I don't think he asked for unconditional surrender. He was willing to talk terms. Terrible name. Is he Scottish? Does he have a Scottish accent?
He's
I
got a
thought that's
bit
what
of
I
a Scottish
detected.
accent, yeah.
Yeah, he seemed at least willing to like talk terms,
Yeah.
which I found interesting because it's like, and Obi-Wan did kind of brush up his ego, but he's like, "Oh, you're known across the Inner Rim." Well, I don't know him, but I guess okay.
I guess, he's just the best separatist general so far, seeing as we're like 2 months into the war.
I know a better general, but I can't talk about him yet because he hasn't showed up in the series yet.
uh, I like your little. Poor man.
He has got an asthma problem. I gotta say, I like Rex in this movie. Rex is very likable. He does not surrender. He just keeps fighting. He goes for it, full send.
Yeah. And
I
I
mean,
really like, so this is in the Wikipedia entry for Rex. I really do like his phrase. He says, what does he
He,
say? I don't remember.
in my book, experience outranks everything.
Yep, in my book, experience outranks everything. That's a really nice line. I thought that was
that's a
really
very
Uh,
good.
good line.
And it's in response
that
to
is.
Ahsoka saying, like, wait a second, don't I
I'm a
outrank you?
I'm a Jedi. Aren't I better than you? Experience outranks everything, little girl.
Yeah, I
You
liked
absolute
that.
schmuckle, and she goes whoop and dies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm joking, she doesn't die. Although I'm sure.
Honestly,
Do you guys
Ahsoka's a
remember
little
that
bit annoying in this film.
everyone hated Ahsoka when she first made her debut?
I think there's good enough reason. She's really annoying in this episode.
And
I mean,
she,
I
yeah,
mean, I guess she would. And she's acting in character. What is she like a
She's
teen,
14
a
years
tween?
old, yeah. So, like,
A
I guess that's
teen.
fine. Yeah, she's 14.
she
Anakin is
she's
19.
14. Yeah.
Anakin don't look and sound 19.
Yeah, right.
No, Well, this is no. You'd be
No, he's
20.
19. Nope, 19.
What?
This is what, two
Hang
months
on,
after Attack of the Clones?
hang
Unless he had a
on.
birthday.
I'm doing math.
Excuse me. No. He was. He's 10 in Phantom Menace, and 10 years passed between Phantom Menace
No,
and
he's
Attack of
9
the
in
Clones.
Phantom Menace.
No
He's what?
way.
He's 9 in
I've
Phantom
been
Menace.
lied to!
Dude,
No
did you ever hear
way.
the Weird Al Yankovic song?
No way.
Oh,
He was 9 and Padme's
no!
14.
That's a good Pat. That's a good song. I know that song. Guys,
Oh.
I would like to report
Okay.
that Ahsoka is younger than all of the Disney princesses
Nice.
in this movie.
Okay, but at least she
Huh.
doesn't fall in love with anyone, so.
You know what? She slices droids and she kills. You know, she's fighting. I can respect.
Yeah.
respect, but she's also an annoying 14-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Weren't we all annoying as 14-year-old kids?
Yes.
I'd say so, yeah. I was pretty annoying.
I think that's
So
general.
getting us back on track. Ahsoka and Anakin, they take down the shield. Can we just agree that I'm not a big fan of the defenses for the shield? There's just these
You mean
these
like
giant
little
droids that
droids?
they're
Sentry
big.
droids.
Yeah, they're big. They're slow moving and they don't have
They
guns.
look like.
Why
they look
would
like
you not
oil
have
Also-
drums
Magna
with
Guard?
guns.
Well, also they're triggered by these tripwires. So if they just missed all the tripwires, then everything would have been fine.
Yeah, if you're just like generally just careful where you step, you're
Mhm.
fine.
Yeah, it's really weird.
I like to postulate what if the separatists just used a bunch of Magna Guards.
Mhm.
I feel like they'd have a way better chance.
Yeah.
And I think I heard a quote somewhere. I don't know what form of media it was, but I think Grievous postulated something that if he had just an army of Magna Guards, he could win the war easily.
So
I
yeah,
think.
they do it. They take down the shield, and Obi-Wan's just like, "Haha, we got it. We win." And they're able to, defend the planet, especially because reinforcements arrive, and they're able to take the planet. So Anakin and Ahsoka have this nice little heart to heart at the end of that endeavor. And Anakin is like, you're reckless. You never would have made it as Obi-Wan's Padawan, but you might make it as mine. And yeah, I really liked that as an introduction to their arc. To be honest, I feel like this movie would have been a whole lot better if they spent an entire 3 episodes having this be the first arc of the show.
It
Yeah.
might have worked a little better.
Or like if they had to make a movie, it would have been better because not only as far as the Clone Wars goes, you would be witnessing in the movie, you'd be witnessing a war with clones rather than an adventure where we have to get the little slug thing to Jabba.
Yeah.
I feel like that
The
would make a
little
lot.
slug thing.
It'd be more on point with what the series is going for, and also like you could do a lot with Ahsoka and Anakin, which they still do pretty decent with Ahsoka and Anakin in this movie. But I just feel like it would have been a lot better if it was more matching the tone and the theme of the show itself.
Mm-hmm. I went onto Ahsoka's Wikipedia page. This thing is gigantic.
I'm sure.
It is enormous.
Yeah, a lot of
Holy
people really like Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I think her reputation really took a turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she was very much. I remember when I was a kid growing up watching the show, everyone hated Ahsoka. I liked Ahsoka.
See, that's
Uh,
another thing that I'm really interested in. That I said this during our episode 0, but Ahsoka as a character, a lot of people really didn't like her, and then suddenly a lot of people really liked her. So I want to know what changed. How did we get from hating her to liking her, and why did that happen? Because right
Mhm.
now, like I could take her or leave her. I really don't care too much for her. But admittedly, as far as Ahsoka goes, it kind of throws off a lot about Revenge of the Sith. So like they really need to put a lot of work into. I'm not gonna fault the show just yet, but unless they do a lot of work to make it so that Anakin is not only where he's at in Revenge of the Sith, but he's where he's at sans Ahsoka, because Ahsoka, like, she's not mentioned in Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously they didn't create her yet, but
Yeah. So I mean, I'm interested in seeing that, and I guess that's a discussion that will be had later in the series, and possibly at the end of the show. That'll be quite interesting.
right.
So, Anakin and Ahsoka, they get in a transport and they head towards Obi-Wan and Yoda, because Yoda just
Mm-hmm.
landed on the planet, and Yoda's just like, "Hey, kidnapped Jabba the Sun, Jabba the Sun's hut has
Jabba
been."
the Sun.
Go rescue him, you must.
Yeah, and man, I do like Anakin's line. He's like,
You want me to rescue Jabba's son?
I think that's our first seed that the Jedi are using Anakin in political maneuvers to garner favor in, ways that he doesn't consent to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I mean, like, let's just take a step back. I mean, we've been taking a lot of steps back, but let's take one more
Anakin-
step back.
We're kind of.
Was it
against-
Anakin's mom was a slave to the Hutts, wasn't she?
Anakin is tasked with providing aid to a regime that's placed him in a position of slavery, right? He was
Right.
born into slavery because
In the
of
Hutts.
the Hutts. The Hutts allowed that to happen.
I believe it was Gardula the Hutt that he was enslaved
Hmm.
by, right?
Yeah,
Excuse
the
me.
the
I think so,
regime
yeah.
that led to the events that got his mother killed, that his job is to help them so that they might help the Jedi. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Right.
the movie beats around the bush a lot with that, but that is a messed up thing, and like, in talking about Anakin's arc, that may have pushed him into Revenge of the Sith Anakin a lot farther, a lot faster, because this is like 2 months after Attack of the Clones, and he's just like, man, I don't like this, but I'm gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just because the Jedi, I think Mace Windu at the start of the movie is just like, yeah, we can only spare Anakin and Obi-Wan, and it's just like, you're here, Yoda's here, Luminara and Plo Koon are in that scene, like, who can't we spare?
Yeah. What are they doing that's so important?
Mm-hmm. So, Obi-Wan heads to Tatooine to, begin negotiations with Jabba, while Anakin and Ahsoka head to Teth. So they go to Teth, and Anakin, he's looking with the troopers. They're just like, this is the monastery he's in. This is
I
where...
like that they had scout troopers who kind of found.
Yeah, and they've got the camos. It's cool.
Yeah,
like...
I like that they're. I like
Yeah.
the theory that they are just sent out across the galaxy just to scout stuff. I think that's a cool idea.
That would be really cool. So I guess we're far
I
enough into the plot now to discuss.
They're like special forces.
What are your thoughts on this being the start of the show? Because this is the start. This is the first arc that they went with. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, I don't have any problems with it, really. It's the first major crisis in the Clone Wars. This is what, 2 months in?
About, yeah.
I think. I don't know. Like I feel like this was the choice they made because they wanted to introduce Ahsoka. They wanted to have kind of like, oh, we're gonna go save a kid. They don't have a ton, they don't have a ton going on that's really going to force the viewer to think about stuff compared to what happens like later in these seasons when they get into like deeper topics.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's safe. Like, it's a very safe story for them to start with, especially, marketing this as a film that you can take take the whole family to go see.
So,
I think
guess
it's a safe way to, like, market this.
my prediction is that this happened this way because George Lucas, who still had a lot of creative freedom and creative control
I mean,
over this,
he was the guy who started this.
Yeah, he said he probably was just like, hey, we need something family friendly. We need to, get this arc started, this show started, this is how we're going to do it. When I don't think that this was a very ideal start to the show. I think if we're going to start with a movie, we're going to want this to be about the Clone Wars, right? I mean, not that this isn't. This is very important to the Clone Wars plot, but like, what's it ultimately about? The Hutts have something that everyone wants, and so we're facilitating a situation where the Hutts can offer what their value if something is done for them. And we can do that in so many other ways than this son of Jabba the Hutt that we've never heard of was kidnapped. That's not to say that that's a bad thing. I think that that's an interesting plot. Just tonally, I feel like it would have made more sense if we started with something more clone focused, because I mean it's a movie that was called The Clone Wars, and it's the actions of the clones are very minimalistic compared to the entire plot.
Yeah.
I have some interesting information here. I'm on Wikipedia. So the Clone Wars was made to serve as both a standalone story and a lead-in to the weekly TV series. Lucas had the idea for a film after viewing some of the completed footage of the early episodes. They were originally planned for television, and then Lucas said, "This is so beautiful. Why don't we just go ahead and use the crew and make a feature?"
Interesting.
And Warner Bros. Was very, because it was originally going to be on Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
And it was. And Warner Bros. Was really unsure of it, but they kind of just said, okay, because Lucas was really excited about it.
So the episodes weren't necessarily like Lucas had some part in it, but the major part that he had was making it into a movie.
Like he started the whole thing. Like, he hired Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
And he like said, tracked the feet. He tracked it. Like, we're gonna make this they made a deal with Warner Bros. To put it on Cartoon Network. And when I guess when he saw the first bit of footage, he was like, why don't we just make this, like, these first few episodes into a movie? It'd be a good, because I mean he's a filmmaker at heart. I understand. But I guess it was just a way to, I don't know, just to get people interested in it. And be like, oh, hey, this is going to be a series on Cartoon Network, but here it's also a movie that we're going to put out in theaters to get everybody's attention with.
Yeah. I think the biggest problems that it has, and the reason why the Clone Wars was not only torn apart by critics but by a lot of the audience, was just because of the massive tonal shift that this had, not only from Star Wars, but from this very section of Star Wars, this idea of the Clone Wars. It's played very seriously in the movies, and then it's just like, the Clone Wars, it started. We got Jabba the Hutt's son. We got to stop him. And there's just so much. There's a lot of childlike comedy in it, and it's just like,
there is.
This is what it's gonna be. I'm not for that. Plus, at that time, man, there were so many like just critical Star Wars fans. Not that there aren't now.
Yeah.
I'm
there
very
always
critical.
will be.
Like like you've already seen, like you've heard me talking about this. I'm very critical of Star Wars, but like I'm far less critical of this than the sequels. Just because like there's varying levels of quality, and I'd say this, while being a fine movie, I don't even want to say it's all that bad. There are a lot of problems, but I'd say most of the problems can be fixed in a redraft. The sequels would need an entire rewrite, right? Like, just the very concept of the First Order rising is just like, all right, you need an entire trilogy just to explain how the First Order got so powerful when the Republic was in place.
Need more info,
right? Like, there's just a lot to discuss that they just don't.
Right. Well, hey, I will jump into some good parts I do like about this movie. Because we're on Teth, right? We're on Teth now.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have Ventress. And Ventress kind of plays the role of our secondary villain to Dooku.
Yeah.
And I think, besides the original 2D Clone Wars, this is her first appearance into the canon. which is because I know she was a character in comics and stuff, and then she was in 2D Clone Wars, but this is like, no, we're putting her into canon.
In the
Mhm.
canon, yeah.
Yeah.
Into canon, which I think is cool because she gets a lot more character development way later in the series.
Mhm.
Oh, for
But I
sure,
think
definitely.
she makes, yeah, she does. But I think she makes for like an interesting like villain because she's kind of Dooku's agent. She's not really a general. She's not really
She's like
somebody
a
who's part of
assassin.
this. Yeah, she's not really part of the separatist military structure at all, but
Mhm.
people respect her because she's essentially Dooku's right hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Besides Grievous.
I like
mean-
her, so I guess we'll talk about her a little bit more as we continue.
Although I suppose saying bring her into canon is kind of misleading, as at this point there really was no canon.
There was no consideration of what the canon was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
until Disney drew a line in the sand and said, this is canon, this is not.
Right. This is at least saying, hey, she has stories in the comics and she was in this cartoon. Let's fit her into here somehow.
Mm-hmm.
She's
I
a
mean-
character we have. Let's use her.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, Fordo, the guy from 2D Clone Wars, the red guy, the red captain,
Mm-hmm.
he
Oh,
was
yeah.
supposed to be the main clone that he was supposed to take Rex's spot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was
Well,
supposed to be.
I don't know anything about him, but I'm really glad that he didn't because I really like Rex.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically going to be the same character. It was just like armor color changes and name changes. That was about it.
I really like the blue, so
Yeah.
I like Rex.
Yeah, but I think Fordo is. I don't think he's canon anymore, which really
okay.
sucks. Because he is another clone that has J guys.
Ah. So, as they're heading to the planet, I will point this out just because we talked about it last episode. Ahsoka, she's telling the story about how they disabled the generator, and all the clones are watching, and Anakin is just like, ugh, oh, Ahsoka.
Oh, Ahsoka.
And what we talked about was the fact that the clones draw, just they have posters of women, and there's a picture of a Twi'lek in clone armor
Yeah.
on the gunship.
Wait a minute. I think this Ryan, continue. I think I know what you're going into. Keep talking.
I just thought that was kind of neat that we were talking about it and it showed even more here. Yeah, that was really all I was gonna say.
Yeah, because I mean that's even more connected to like in World War II they literally on like the sides of our B-24s, B-29s we had there was the pinup girls.
Mm-hmm.
Usually that was usually the name of the bomber.
Mm-hmm. I like
Yeah.
it. It adds a little bit more to the clones. Given that this is the first time we see something like that, I remember that received a lot of praise. The idea that like, oh man, look at all these clones. Look at that one. He's got the gray hair. We got Baldy over here. His name is Rex.
Right.
And we got
I
all
think-
the other ones.
They
Hold
also
on.
put sorry.
Okay, so you were talking about how that was the name of the ship, right?
Well, sometimes like there was one bomber. I think it's called. Oh, Kyle, your history knowledge. I just watched a documentary about this. I think it was called the Memphis Belle.
Uh-huh.
Like it had a picture of like some pinup girl, but the name of the girl was the Memphis Belle, and so the bomber was named the Memphis Belle. That's what it was known as.
Well, the gunship with the Twi'lek and clone armor is called Lucky Leku, and it makes multiple appearances in the show.
Well, what do you know?
Really,
We gotta
that'll be
keep
interesting.
our eyes out for it.
Yeah,
Lucky
we'll have
Leku.
to.
All right, so
Cool.
looks like it appears in Rookies, Landing at Point Rain, and Sabotage.
We'll keep an eye
okay.
out for it.
So, I guess continuing on, they make it to Teth. I like them showing that they have like a minute and a half of them in a gunship, and it's like, oh, red light, it means prepare for landing, and then green light means go, and it's them getting ready for the battle. It's really cool. I liked that as just a way of showing the clones and how they go about doing things. Yeah, I thought that was cool. But yeah, they make it to the bottom of the big mountain that leads to the monastery, and Anakin and Ahsoka. This is their first time like going on a mission together after Christophsis, and they're just like, let's race, right?
Yeah.
As yeah, I thought that was pretty neat. Is they're racing to the top. I think it works character wise, while also it provides a great action scene. Just the idea, it's very creative, right? They're walking up this wall while they're being shot down on, and Ahsoka's riding one of the walkers while Anakin is
Yeah.
just scaling the mountain. It's really cool. I liked it.
Yeah.
That said, there's some plot armor. I mean, come on, they're getting
Yeah.
fired upon,
Yeah.
but like, I thought it was neat. One joke that I really liked with the two droids, the commander is just like,
Concentrate fire on sector 11374265.
he's just like,
1137. What was that again?
I was just like,
What?
I loved that. I don't know why. As a kid, I loved it, and even as an adult, it made me chuckle.
The droids, yeah, the droids are definitely played for laughs a lot in this series. And I mean, it's kind of, I mean, you got to have some comedy relief somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think they work it somewhere because it's just like it's.
Well, like
I
there's
find that
this
funny
idea.
too.
A lot of people really dislike the childish humor, right? There's a lot of kid-friendly humor, right? There's fart jokes, there's burp jokes. There's pretty much all of the stuff with Stinky is either played for laughs or played like to appease children. But
Right.
then something like this, it's still very clearly meant to appease children, but it's more endearing, at least in my eyes, than the other stuff. And I don't really know where that line is, right? Like what is it about the droids that makes me like them compared to what is it about Stinky that makes me dislike him?
Right. Well, I would say I know there's lots of people who would criticize. Oh, that's played too much for laughs. Star Wars is very serious. I would like to point to the direction of two films. Number one is the first Star Wars, where C-3PO and R2-D2 are played for laughs. They are the comic relief.
That's true,
And to Episode 3, where the battle droids are comic relief. The super battle droids trying to get R2, and even
I mean, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to go
There's-
even further back with episode 1. Qui-Gon says,
I'm ambassador to the Supreme Chancellor. I'm taking these people to Coruscant.
and one of the droids is just like,
That doesn't compute. Wait, you're under arrest.
I also love. There's a moment. I think it's when it's that scene where Anakin and Grievous have their banter when they're captured.
General Grievous, you're shorter than I expected.
But the battle droid hands Grievous the lightsabers, and Grievous just kind of snatches them away, and the battle droid's like,
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And he kind of squeezes past Obi-Wan's like, excuse me.
yeah, he's like, excuse me.
yeah,
very polite.
I think I don't know where the line would be, like how much humor is too much humor, or like how much levity should we grant a scene before there's too much comedy and we're drifting away from the drama.
Right.
I feel like as far as this goes, like the droids, the joke is that that's a lot of numbers. I don't know how to, I didn't catch that. That's kind of the joke.
Yeah.
There's a joke later on where one of the droids is talking to Ventress, and he's just like, "Yes, sir. Sir." Like he doesn't know what to address her as, and it's just like, it made me smile. It didn't make me laugh, but those jokes they're played a lot more seriously because I think they're not at anyone's expense really. It's just like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense that you might not know, because I honestly wouldn't know how to address someone either, like in that situation. It's a little weirder because they're droids, but yeah, I guess when it comes to Stinky, the idea is like he's a baby, so we're meant to laugh at the baby because the baby went Wah! And it's just like it's not like I don't want to laugh at babies, but that's just a lot less we're taking things far less seriously. It's kind of like jokes at someone's expense versus jokes at maybe no one's expense, but just like jokes at situational expenses. Um, Not to say like the all of the comedy with Stinky is meant to be laughing at him, but laughing at the notion of, oh, it's a baby, right? That's kind of the point. It's the same thing with Jar Jar. I think that's why people don't like Jar Jar, because all of his comedy is physical comedy that's meant to laugh at him rather than laughing with him.
I'm not opposed to slapstick physical comedy, but if it's overdone in very like predictable ways, it hurts.
I think that's a big part of it, but yeah, they're racing to the top. There's a moment where Ahsoka's in trouble. Like the walker is getting disconnected and they're trying to get it back up, and these droids are on these little floating speeders and they're about to shoot at her, and Anakin, he jumps down to help her, and I like that quite a bit because he plays it for fun, but it shows like he's caring enough about her that he wants to help, and he wants to make sure that even like he still doesn't think that she can do it herself, which honestly she's a Padawan and she can't right now, but
she's 14 years old and she's thrown into the middle of a war standing on a walker that's precariously hanging off the side of a cliff.
That's true. Also, I do think that the shot of him destroying them all is really cool, because it like jumps with him from each one as he destroys it.
Speeder bikes.
Cool. One thing I do want to point out about this scene is I find it really weird, the musical choice. I feel like it's very out of place for what Star Wars is. Just the music there is like not at all what I would consider a part of Star Wars. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's fine for them to have their own distinct music. I just find it really weird that this is the track that they go with as they're scaling the wall, because it's like, all right, this doesn't make me feel like Star Wars. This makes me feel like generic action movie, but yeah, it was fine. But yeah, Anakin uses one of these speeders. He uses one of the speeders to fly his way up to the top, and it's a trap, but they then Ahsoka gets up there and she defeats the droids, and they find Stinky. I said then they find Stinky and the movie gets way worse. Just because, man, I really don't like Stinky. I don't like the arc. No, not the arc. I don't like the comedy that they have for him. I don't like the character of Stinky. It seems really weird that he exists just as a character, and I guess I'll get into more of that later, why I have a problem with it. But so after they find Stinky, we cut back to Obi-Wan. So at this time Obi-Wan was negotiating with Jabba. We only have one scene of it, but he's just like, hey, we're gonna find your son, and they're given one rotation to find him and bring him back, which is not a lot of time, but it's enough that they could do it. But Obi-Wan leaves Tatooine and he's on his way to help. He's on his way to Teth to help. But after he leaves, Count Dooku enters Jabba's palace, and he tells Jabba that the Jedi kidnapped his son, and that Jabba, like, and they're after Jabba. They want to take down the Hutts. Jabba just accepts this, right? Like, I guess there's a little bit later where he shows a recording where Anakin has his son and he's just like, I hate Hutts. But like that's all it took for Jabba to believe Dooku. But I guess we can move on from that for now.
Hey, can I say a quick thing about Dooku?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, two things. Number one, his head is very oddly shaped.
It's very skinny.
Mm-hmm.
It's very narrow.
Very skinny and very narrow. But also, I think most importantly, in all of the Clone Wars series, only in this movie is he voiced by Christopher Lee.
Yeah, that's really
works
cool.
So well.
And another interesting detail, which we kind of skipped by, but Mace Windu throughout all of the Clone Wars is voiced by Samuel L. Jackson.
Really?
Let's
Yep.
go.
Nice.
That's really cool. But yeah, I really like Christopher Lee in this movie. I love the delivery that he gives. When I first watched it for prep for this, I was just like, man, props to the voice actor. He really sounds like Christopher Lee. And then I
And
looked
then
it
you're
up. I was
like,
like,
oh wait.
oh, there we go.
That's him.
Yep.
I like that he just took the time to do it. Like
Yeah, I
he didn't
like
have
that.
to because they didn't get Hayden Christensen or Ewan McGregor or anybody else. Natalie Portman. They didn't get anybody else, but Christopher Lee said, "You know what? I'm gonna come
I'll
do
do it.
this."
Yeah, and I like it. I think that it really does push the transition from this to animation a little bit easier, just because it's just like, hey, that's a voice that I recognize.
Mhm.
So I guess
He's
continuing.
always good. He's always good as Dooku. Very
Yeah,
menacing.
he's
very
really good. Christopher Lee's
very
good in
scheming.
most of his roles. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, I've only ever seen him as this and as Saruman, and I believe there's another one that I don't remember.
I've seen some clips of him as Dracula. He's kind of entertaining there.
Oh, he does play Willy Wonka's dad in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
He does. That's right.
Yeah,
He
and I thought he
does?
was neat in that movie. But
That's
yeah,
a
Christopher
weird
Lee,
film.
he's a great actor.
Uh-huh.
Rest in
Agreed.
peace.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess moving on, they continue. They find Jabba the Hutt's son, and Ahsoka's just like, "Hey, this little stinky is he's sick." And this is absolutely a nitpick, but Anakin he places his robotic hand on Stinky, and he's like, "Yep, that's a sick boy." Right, like here,
Yeah.
I'm gonna post that in the Discord. He just places his robot hand on him, and he's like, "Ah, you're right."
I just realized that
He's
is his robot
sick.
hand.
I just
He's
thought that was
sick.
really funny.
I wonder if he was just saying it to be like, "Oh yeah, he's sick because he's a Hutt."
Well, in the next shot, it looks like he has both of his hands on him. But I don't want to confirm that. I like the idea that he tested it with his robot hand.
That's funny.
But yeah, so the Separatists attack. They attack the monastery, and Anakin and Ahsoka they have to retreat inside. And it's here where Ahsoka provides a counter plan. Like Anakin just says, "We're gonna hold out until Obi-Wan gets here," but Ahsoka's just like, "We don't have enough time. Let's have R2 scan the facility, and we'll find a way out." And I like that because Anakin does, he's a little defensive at first, but he concedes pretty quickly. He's just like, that's a little bonding, and I like that. Um, right? I mean, the very concept of this arc is Anakin growing this paternal bond to Ahsoka because of their master Padawan dynamic. And I think it's played pretty well in the movie.
Yeah.
Now, I do add that praise right before they have a conversation. R2 is he's scanning the area, and Anakin and Ahsoka they start talking, and it's one of the worst dialogue exchanges in the movie. It's
What
just
did they
so
say?
overt.
Mhm.
Anakin is just like, "What are you worried about?" And Ahsoka's just like, "I'm worried about not being seen as someone who can handle myself." And then Anakin is just like, "Oh, don't worry." And then he quotes Qui-Gon, which is the only good dialogue in that scene. But like beyond that, like, oh, it's so bad. It is exactly what I was worried the dialogue exchange would be, which is just characters saying exactly how they're feeling with no like them wanting to compartmentalize any information. They just say like it's like, "How are you?" "Oh, I am this." Like
I
that's
am
just not
the
how
good.
conversations work.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just not natural. But yeah, they do that. Ventress starts to breach the facility, and Rex he's almost able to kill her.
Yeah.
Which is
I
pretty
will say
crazy.
the novelization does give us a name for the one other clone that survives with Rex the whole time.
Oh
His
yeah.
name is Corporal, I think. I think he's either a corporal or a sergeant. Korik. That's his name.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the name.
Well, I guess before we get too far ahead, yeah, they have a scene where Anakin and Ahsoka are trying to figure out what's wrong with Stinky, and Dooku or Ventress has a droid monitoring that, and Dooku shows that to Jabba, which is a little bit more information, but the only information that Jabba has is that Anakin and Ahsoka have his son, which is what he wanted them to do in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And he just assumes, oh no, because Anakin says, I hate Hutts. I guess, he doesn't know who Anakin is, so the idea of hearing that could clue him onto something. But, like,
Yeah.
that's just not enough information to, especially for a crime lord, to determine these guys are against me.
Yeah. He's kind of doo-doo stupid there.
Yeah. But yeah, the attack happens. They retreat into the base, and yeah, around this time is where Obi-Wan gets there, and they start to make their way to fight the droids. And this is the first exchange that Obi-Wan has with Oddball. He says, Skywalker is in trouble, you know the drill. And Oddball's just like, copy that, sir. That's the second moment in the movie that made me chuckle. Just because, this is the idea that he's like, oh, Anakin's in trouble, you know what to do.
He's like, not this again.
Yeah. But yeah, with Rex and the clones, Anakin is clued on to... Sorry, I'm just kind of explaining a lot of the movie just so that we could get to the things that we have to say. But Anakin and Ahsoka, they're clued on to the fact that Rex is being mind controlled by Ventress, because Ventress mind controls him, and he doesn't, say... doesn't call him General Skywalker, he calls him Anakin. And they're just like, haha, it's Ventress, which I like that as a detail. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
In the novelization, it says that Captain Rex has too strong of a mind to be mind tricked, and instead does that on purpose.
I like that, actually. What I don't like is that he just survives that encounter. Because Ventress didn't feel like killing him. She was choking him out, and then she was like, "You're gonna do this," and then, yeah, she just doesn't feel like killing him afterwards.
She just throws him apparently with the other prisoners of war.
She wasn't feeling it. She throws him in with Korik and other unnamed fellows.
She just wants to go kill Anakin really badly.
But I mean, I guess it's okay that she doesn't kill him, because even though that's a bit of plot armor, it leads to a pretty neat fight where, even though, again, there's a lot of plot armor, they're able to steal the guns of the droids and fight back.
Very Black Hawk Down-ish, where they're fighting amongst the ruins of the walker to kind of hold back the droids.
There's this really cool shot of it's shooting the droids from the POV of the gun.
Yeah,
that's a really cool shot.
Yeah. I like that this movie does try to at least kind of get into the role of like, oh, these are clones, these are soldiers who are fighting a war, and tries to get you into the POV of you're in the war. This is war. Yeah. War is hell.
Yeah. So what's next? Anakin and Ahsoka. Sorry, we're kind of bouncing back and forth between Anakin and Ahsoka and Rex and Obi-Wan. But Anakin and Ahsoka, they find an exit, but they don't really know how to get off, because it's this platform. And then they're just accepting of their fate, and the what is it? These spider droids. They shoot at the bottom of the platform. They're gonna destroy it, and these bug creatures start flying away.
Giant dragonflies.
As this happens, Stinky, an infant, points at not the bugs, but at the platform that has a ship on it. And that's what clues them on. They're just like, oh, we're going to do this. And I want to die. Because Anakin, I mean, I get Anakin's 19, Ahsoka's 14, but they're saved by a literal infant.
They're saved by a baby.
Yeah.
Bobby.
That's just how it is.
Why are babies in Star Wars overpowered?
I don't know. I don't get it,
man.
there's an interaction between Obi-Wan and Oddball, in which Oddball is he's got vulture droids on his 6 and he's freaking out, and Obi-Wan's just like, I got it, don't worry, just stay calm. And he destroys the vulture droids, and Oddball is just like, I'm sorry, sir. And Obi-Wan's just, don't worry, it happens to the best of us. And it's just like, oh, that's so cool. I like how chill you are, and how even though this guy's losing his crap, you're just so nice about it. You're just like, don't worry, it happens. Just try to stay calm.
Yeah, that's just like how cool Obi-Wan is.
I know we are 2 episodes and half a movie into this, but I already really like how Obi-Wan treats the clones.
Yeah,
I think that's really cool. Then we get some more weird music it's around the 56-minute mark is where I put it. Like, I'm fine with it. It's just, it seems out of place for what Star Wars tends to go for. It just feels like generic action music, and that's like not a fault in any way. It's just, it seems a little out of place for what the Clone Wars ultimately chooses to go for and what Star Wars tends to go for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess
I don't remember.
up next, oh geez, I forgot about this part. But there's a moment where there's this random clone that is being shot at by a super battle droid, and his gun jams, so he runs up and he starts like melee combating him.
Watch out for those wrist rockets.
And the super battle droid grabs him by the hand, lifts him up, and then just shoots him in the heart. It is insanely brutal, and I was just like, oh man, that's
he just
right,
annihilates him.
Oh, and then it's matched up right after that where the droids surround Rex, and Rex is just like,
we've got you outnumbered,
and he's just like,
outnumbered. Wait, 1, 2, 3.
I remember that joke making me laugh a lot as a kid.
No, I was gonna say, didn't they have vulture droids on the ground, like attacking Rex? Like, how do those not make like, those are essentially like tank, because those lasers are supposed to be able to take out starfighters. How did those lasers not like do a bigger job in that fight?
I don't know.
Because I know they took out one of the vultures.
I don't remember.
They were using their no blowy uppy rounds.
They were using anti-personnel rounds. Got it.
They were using their
they were using machine guns, not cannons. Got it.
Yes.
As this is happening, right, as the reinforcements arrive, Obi-Wan gets out of his ship and he starts to attack Ventress. Right, they start talking, and yeah, they're fighting. And so remember our interaction from the last episode in the Hidden Enemy with Obi-Wan and Ventress? How they have a bit of a flirtatious. It's really weird. So this frame is a little out of focus, but it doesn't quite show off Ventress's butt, but she takes off her
and he just goes
thing.
Ooh.
And the next shot
he's like,
just
look
he
at
just
this.
smirks at
He's
it.
like, oh yeah.
Yeah, but she throws
it
at him.
Man, I'm too busy looking at this.
Oh my goodness.
Like the entire fight, he has it pretty well handled, but he's just enjoying it way too much.
Yeah, he calls her my darling, and just
like he's not.
Like so
he is not like.
very flirty.
I don't think he's like even breaking a sweat with this. I mean, like it's a lightsaber fight. You got to stay focused, but like he's just enjoying himself. Like what the heck?
And I got this lovely image here. I'll post it in the Discord. It's on the screen right now. Of it's right after Ventress throws her cloak. She jumps in for an attack, and it's just the way her face looks. She's just screaming, and I don't know.
She's screaming, and Obi-Wan's like, "Oh yeah, this is it."
Oh yeah, scream harder.
It's like there's a scene in God of War 3, where Kratos is deciding between whether or not he's gonna let someone he cares about go or attack Odin, and he just lets out this really crazy scream, and his face is so funny just before he tackles Odin. He lets the person go and he tackles Odin. It's so
I've seen
funny,
memes of that, yeah.
but like this has the same energy. But yeah, there's that. What is the next part? Oh yes, so Anakin and Ahsoka, they get in the ship, and R2 kind of jump starts it because there's some problems with it. And as they're flying to this Republic star cruiser, they're getting attacked by vulture droids, and they're just like, "Hey, what do we do? We gotta land in the hangar so we can get to Tatooine." And the hangar gets blown up by some vulture droids.
Yeah, they kamikaze the hangar.
Yeah, one of the droids kamikazes the hangar. And I don't know if they were trying to bomb the hangar and leave, or because it looked like some of them were trying to leave, but one of them crashes into it. But yeah, I think it's fine if they were kamikazing their droids. But yeah, that's setting up the idea that they can't land in the hangar, so they just have to fly to Tatooine.
Yeah, I did take note. There was one like in the dogfight, they went between the bridges of the Venator. I took note of it because I was like, hey, wait a minute. That's my move. I do that in Battlefront 2 all the time. That's how I get stuff off my tail. I fly through the bridge and then they crash.
I think that's what that's something Anakin would do. He'd do something reckless like that.
I just like everybody in the bridge is just like, oh, just die. Just like as the ships
Why would
just
you do
fly
that?
like within inches of the bridge.
I love it. There is a moment where they're in communications with Rex, and they want to reply or supply aid to Rex, and they just have to say, "Sorry, Rex, we can't." And Rex is just like, "It's all right, sir. The mission always comes first." And it's just like, "Ah, man, like you were given some really bad news, and you're taking it like a champ."
He's like, we're gonna fight to the end, boys.
I like Rex.
Rex is a Chad. I don't know what to tell you, man.
So,
Giga Chad.
in talks about Obi-Wan versus Ventress, just to backtrack a second because I forgot to say something.
Gosh.
They sense that, you know, Stinky and Anakin have left, and like that's near the end of the fight. But I don't remember exactly what he said, but
We know of Dooku's plot to turn the Hutts against us. It will not succeed.
Ventress responds with,
It will when the truth dies with you.
and I just felt like that was a really poorly written line. Like that they should have thought that through a bit more, because like just the way that she delivers it, she's like, "It will when the truth dies with you." That just doesn't. That sounds like two sentences that you combined into one.
Yeah, no, it's a little run on, yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they end their fight after they sense that Anakin's no longer on Teth, and
Then she jumps on a vulture droid.
yeah, she jumps on a vulture droid. So I guess that'd be a good spot to talk about. So what are our thoughts on Ventress in this movie?
She's okay. She plays her role. I mean, she's the secondary antagonist that kind of has to do a lot of the dirty work for Dooku. So, I mean, she plays that role all right. There's not a ton to her character besides the fact it's like, oh, I'm the bad guy of the week. I'm going to attack and we're going to have a lightsaber battle and I'm going to be evil.
Yeah.
So, like, there's not a ton of nuance to her about who she is. Like, she's just here. Like, we're not really given information on, who or what she is.
Yeah.
So, we're just kind of left at that. But she's different. She's a female bad guy, which we don't get a ton of in Star Wars. So she's kind of unique in that point. And she's kind of just I mean, she's very aggressive and reckless, so it's just gives you something different.
We get to learn a lot more about her personality throughout the Clone Wars series, but I do feel like this and the Hidden Enemy, there's enough there that you can understand a little bit more about her as a character, especially in this movie. She takes part in a lot of Dooku's scheming and his plans. She tends to be a pawn used for his gain, but he throws her into situations that she can't quite handle. And I mean, like, she's got to fight Obi-Wan here because the Republic is prepared to, you know, to defend Stinky. Um, and so she's stuck in a. I hate that that's his name. That's what I'm calling him, but you know we're sticking with it.
You can just call him his
No,
name.
no, his name is Stinky, and he'll always be Stinky in my mind. Um, so like she's stuck
And
fighting
he
Obi-Wan.
always will be.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yes, but
What did you do to Stinky?
But Ventress, she's fighting Obi-Wan, and at this point, Obi-Wan very much outclasses her, and you can see, like, even in this image, she's angry about it, right? She knows that she's not going to win this fight, and
Right.
she has
It's
to
like-
retreat.
Obi-Wan is a really good lightsaber.
He's a great duelist, yeah.
So it's like the fact that you have to fight Obi-Wan is like
In and of itself is kind of unfair, I guess. Yeah.
unfair. I know Grievous. I know later we'll see. I think Grievous just relishes in it because Obi-Wan offers a challenge.
Yeah.
But
one thing that I do want to say, I really like the voice actress for Ventress.
yeah, she's
Right,
very
she's got
good.
a great voice. And I think it really, I don't know if it matches Ventress. I don't know enough about Ventress to say if it matches her or not. But
Trying to
she's just got a
remember.
great voice, and I like to hear her whenever she's like yelling at Obi-Wan.
I know in the original
Yeah,
2D
let me look
Clone
up who the
Wars,
voice actress is.
the original 2D, I forget what the name of this voice actress is. She's been in quite a few things. She does really good with Ventress. But I think the original one for the 2D Clone Wars was Grey Delisle. But she kind of did like this very, very similar to what this actress does, like this, you know, kind of subdued, kind of gravelly voice. So I mean, I think it fits, and I think the other Night Sister. Spoiler alert: she's a Night Sister. I don't know if they all kind of had that similar tint to their voice, but I don't remember.
I like
exactly,
that she can have a very
plays
smooth
Sonic.
voice, but at the same time she can make it
Yeah.
really raspy and deep.
She can go from very
Or
smooth
maybe
and
not deep, but
sultry
yeah.
to very like raspy and like just pure rage.
Yeah, very venomous.
Yeah, venomous.
I like
That's a good
it.
word.
But yeah, there's that. I like her as a character. I like I guess now that we're talking about voice actors, we did a bit with Dooku and with Mace Windu, but I never pointed this out in the last episode. The voice actor for the clones, like, geez, he's awesome.
Oh,
Yep, D. Bradley
yes.
Baker.
D.
Yeah,
Bradley Baker.
like we didn't mention it in the last episode, but that entire Among Us moment where it's Chopper versus Slick versus Rex and Cody, that's all voiced by him. Every single character, but every single character, including with their facial features and like the personality features that we praised, like they have their own inflections of voice. And it's clear, like you can tell which person is playing which. And I like that a lot.
I think I talked about this a little bit in Republic Commando. It's said that that's how clones tell each other apart, because each person, as they develop their personality, their voice changes slightly, and so different clones just learn what their brothers sound like, and like that was how one of the commandos was able to like find his squad mate, because he just like followed the sound of his voice and he knew which clone was which.
That's pretty neat. So moving on, just to move on. So we're already doing that. We're already almost we're at the 1 hour and 41 minute mark. Like we still got like a half hour of this movie left. Let's continue. Stinky is still, you know, very much sick.
They give
They
him
don't
a
really
pill,
push
and he's
that
better.
a little bit. Yeah, they push it a little bit in the episode. Like they introduce that and then it's kind of goes away and now it's back and it's just like, oh crap, he's gonna die. So as they enter hyperspace, Ahsoka finds this medical droid. I really like his I really liked his voice, right? I just find the way that he delivers lines is really funny. And just the way that he delivers the line, if you have any problems, please call an actual doctor to assist you. I don't know if that was meant to be a joke, but it made me laugh. Just
It
like
did
that
make me
idea.
laugh too.
I just find that really funny.
Like this is literally you talking to the TV doctor. And it's like if you need real medical advice, please call 910 6 something something good doctor. I don't know.
Please call 911. What are you doing?
Yes.
911 with
What are you
the
calling me for?
The other half of 911 is what are you doing?
Yes.
911, what are you doing?
911, how did you mess up today?
So true.
So yeah, just like that, Ahsoka feeds Stinky a little blueberry and he's like, "Wow, I'm better. You can tell that I'm better because I burped and you can see the green gas."
That's how
yeah.
sickness works.
But yeah, they go back and they start to have another like heart-to-heart conversation. And I just want to point out Anakin's Adam's apple, it's evil.
What?
What?
Here,
What?
let me just point it out. Oh my gosh, it's scary. It's just polygons.
I wasn't even paying attention to that. How did you?
Yeah, it's so creepy. But yeah, that exists.
What the?
But yeah, back on Tatooine, Dooku, he receives a call from Ventress in front of Jabba, and Ventress reveals that Anakin killed Stinky. The idea being that they're sowing further discord between the Hutts and the Jedi. Yeah, I like Dooku's scheming, but I definitely hate that Jabba just like he's a crime lord. He shouldn't be going on one person's testimony to like, determine how he's going to view an entire faction. And Jabba in this moment, like, let's just look at this from Jabba's POV, right? Jabba, he knows that he has space that a lot of people want in this situation. He knows that the Separatists want it. Are there any red flags in his mind that maybe the Separatists aren't being honest because they want the space? Right? Like, he should recognize he's a crime lord. He should recognize the value of his assets and what people might do to ascertain that value.
Yeah, for sure. I think Jabba's not the
He's a
smartest.
little dummy
Yeah.
in this, but
Not
yeah,
the-
we can keep going with that.
Not the brightest bulb in the box.
Not the fattest hut in the galaxy.
Yes. So yeah, Dooku basically says, "Don't worry. Anakin, he's coming here. He's gonna kill you, but don't worry. I'll beat him up."
I'll protect you, my lord Jabba.
I'll do it myself.
Yeah. I do find that to be a big question too, just because, like, I actually looked it up. Anakin, he says in Revenge of the Sith, he's like, "My powers have doubled since the last time we met, Count." Like, it's fine here because it's 2 months after the Battle of Geonosis, but you got to be very careful with how Anakin interacts with Dooku.
So here's one thing. So Dave Filoni was very careful with Anakin and General Grievous because
he was
like never met. They'd never met.
Yeah.
It like face to face. But he is not careful with him and Dooku because they fight near the end of Clone Wars. They fight in during the arc where they're looking into like the creation of the clones, and they go to the Pike homeworld.
They fight a lot.
They fight
with the pirates arc. They fight like several times. Just him, Dooku, and Obi-Wan. And he fight. I think there's another one where they fight. When we'll get to that. I'm gonna have a lot to say about that episode when Grievous is captured by the Gungans.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to be pure rage in that episode.
Yeah. So just all of that to say, like, this isn't necessarily a problem yet, but like that is a very questionable thing. Like, if you're gonna have Anakin having interactions with Dooku, I'm not gonna take, my powers have doubled since the last time we met as like this is a valid thing. Like that's just truth that Anakin says, right? That's probably not the case, but that does hint at the idea that it's been a little bit since they've met. So
Instead
like
of, yeah.
you got to be very careful with how you do this.
I wish like they had said like my powers have doubled since Geonosis. Then that would be like a valid argument. Like they'd be
But
like,
like that's the thing is, when
not
he
what he
says my
said.
powers have doubled, like it's such a good setup for what Dooku says. He's like, good, twice the pride, double the
Pride,
fall.
double the ball.
That's so good. I love it.
Christopher Lee,
Love Christopher Lee.
what a chat.
Yeah,
Teaching Peter Jackson what it's like what it
He's
sounds
so
like
good.
to be stabbed in the back.
that's so good. So there's this big moment with ship combat just outside of Tatooine. The Magna Guards.
The Magna Guard.
They're shooting at
The
him.
rogue class, yes.
Yeah, so this is another detail that I noticed. In it, just G-forces, yet they just exist again.
Actually, they don't exist.
Well,
anymore.
they kind of exist because
Listen.
they adhere to gravity that isn't there, right? It's like the dogfight is happening in the atmosphere of a planet, the way that Ahsoka gets thrown around, when it's in reality, like, if you're doing a full, like, loop-de-loop, Ahsoka's gonna be planted right on the ground because that's how centripetal force works, not like, oh, it's all shaky.
Listen, if G-Force exists in the Star Wars X-Wing game, it's gonna have to exist somewhere.
Yeah. All of that to say, like, it's really weird how it's played, and it's played for comedic purposes because she's going to get
Right.
stinky and then he falls on her. He's like, great, you woke him.
Right. But the way Anakin is throwing that thing around.
He is throwing it around.
In reality, it would be like, oh my gosh, I'm dying.
Yeah, it would be, it definitely would. It'd be like Interstellar where I forget her name, she just passes out because they're doing the docking thing.
Right.
But yeah.
Like in I mean, another good example, or probably a recent example I think people would know is Top Gun Maverick when the guy has to pull out of his of his
I like
dive
that they do the
and
POV of him blacking out.
Of him blacking out, because that happens. That is literally the force of gravity. You are fighting gravity.
Or fighting force itself.
Yeah,
Gravity.
force itself. Yep.
Yeah.
Freaking gravity.
On top of that, to make things a little bit worse, R2-D2 has to reach a little thing to turn the gun around so that Anakin can shoot the droid, and Ahsoka has to push him to get him there because R2-D2, an astromech designed for repair outside of ships, can't navigate inside a ship without Ahsoka's help. And I was just like, what? God, you're kidding me. Because she's like, oh, why can't you be a tiny mouse droid? And I was just like, why can't he move?
Centripetal forces, of course.
I guess. But yeah, again, like, not a big issue. It could have been handled, like, in a different way, but the way that they handle it leads to problems that I can't ignore, because that's just where my mind goes. What is next? They crash land, and then we cut to a different part of the story for a bit. That's probably where, we haven't talked about it much because, like, this was supposed to be 4 separate episodes. That's probably where the 3rd episode ends. Right? Because, like, they decide, all right, we're gonna start going to Jabba, but, like, the next episode, it's like the last 20 minutes of the movie has Padme in it. So it's like, all right, I guess we're doing this. I feel like that makes sense that would be
that whole
episode.
plot does not need to be in this movie.
We're gonna talk about that too. So the Padme plot serves to save Anakin and Ahsoka at the end of the movie. And it also reveals necessary evidence to pin the plot back to Dooku.
Zero.
Yeah, it's hinged upon this idea that Zero the Hutt, who is Jabba's uncle, and he lives on Coruscant, Zero the Hutt knew where Jabba's son was and was willing to collude with Dooku to have him kidnapped. The word that's bouncing around in my head is contrived.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Why is he Southern?
yeah, here's where we're gonna discuss.
I'm Zero, and I'm definitely from the South.
Yeah. Earlier in this, when we first talked about Jabba and the concept of his son, I said that I had criticisms that I was gonna save. This is where I'm gonna bring them out. The idea of exploring the Hutt clan reminds me of the idea of exploring the Predators in the Predator movies. Right? Like, there's some mystery to them, there's some interest garnered there, but the second you lock yourself into one canon, it's going to be really difficult to get people to, still be interested, because like the intrigue is the mystery, right?
It's like trying to give a scientific explanation to the Force.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, because people really like the mystery of what the Force is. I think that's also true not only with the Predators, but with the aliens. Because like once you give the xenomorphs a single canon, it kind of ruins the mystique.
In the past year, I watched all of the Alien.
You watched the Alien films, and he had to suffer.
Except for AVP, which I still need to watch, but I don't know if
I would actually watch that. I know this is a side tangent. I'll watch that with you because I've heard that there are parts of that that are actually good.
Okay. But yeah, just this idea of exploring the Hutts. It's not that it can't be good or can't be, it has to be bad, but like you're locking this into the idea that the Hutts, they like, I don't want to see Jabba the Hutt's son. No offense, like it could work, but I don't want to see it unless it's played really well and you put a whole lot of effort into making it interesting. They played him for laughs. Zero the Hutt, I don't even know what they're going for with him. He's really weird.
Really weird, effeminate purple Hutt.
Yeah.
He's Southern.
I hate him so much. I want him dead.
Well, hey, you don't have to wait long when we get to that arc.
This image, I called it Zero the Hutt. Kill it with fire.
Why are the assassin droids so useless?
I genuinely do.
Yeah, we'll discuss that in a second as well.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, before we get to that, we're actually about to, but yeah. So Padme visits Zero the Hutt, and sorry for the brief pause in the podcast. This is editor me. I've been working on this for a little bit now, and I noticed that this is the 1 hour, 38 minute, and 23 second mark that I'm paused at. And that happens to be the moment where the movie would end. So, if you were to play the podcast and the movie side by side, the movie would stop playing at the moment that I took this tangent. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. We got a long podcast, so thanks for sticking with us if you made it this far. Like, good on you. Yeah, so Padme visits Zero the Hutt, and Zero's just like, what? Why would this happen, right? Like, why would I help you? Because the Republic, they kidnapped the Jedi, they kidnapped my son, and Padme is just like, oh, it was a misunderstanding. And yeah, it's a really weird... Yeah, she has a very stupid plan. So let's just pretend for a second that Zero is 100% innocent in the whole situation, right? Because, spoiler alert, he's not. He's actually very guilty. Oh, I already spoiled that, but
What?
Padme's plan was to just walk into Zero's, I don't want to say his house, but where he's at, and tell him that his
court.
Yeah, and tell him that his crime boss of a nephew has inaccurate information, and then asks to discuss the situation with Jabba himself. Like, that's just a stupid plan.
Like, you're walking into the middle of, like, this is a cantina. There's lots of criminals here with guns. There's assassin droids. I would like to continue to mention there are assassin droids.
I mean,
in
Zero
here.
just nonchalantly gets rid of an assassin just because he failed him one time.
Yeah. And he said, "My best assassin failed me one time. Goodbye."
Goodbye. We'll strip you for parts. But yeah, she gets taken away. They're gonna escort her out. But in between them escorting her out and her escaping, there's a scene in which Anakin and Ahsoka they crash landed and they're walking to Jabba's palace because they crash landed somewhere in the Dune Sea. Pretty lucky that they're in walking distance of Jabba's palace. Like they can get there still within the allotted time frame, even though this was a crash land. But yeah, we can let that slide.
Into the palace.
Yeah, they killed Jabba on accident.
Whoops.
Oopsies, that was an accident. Can we have your space?
Myself the new crime boss, and I give myself access.
No, not Boba Fett.
No.
Yeah, Padme. Back to Padme, because we're kind of bouncing back and forth. So Padme, she's being escorted out by this IG unit. Now let's just remember, IG units. Kyle, you want to tell me what those are meant to do?
Of course, I'd love to tell you what they're meant to do. They are hardened killers. They are efficient. They are deadly. They are smart. The Magna Guards are IG units. The Magna Guards and the Assassin Droids are related. The Magna Guards are like some of the biggest threats in this film, like in Star Wars. They are challenging opponents. Assassin Droids are challenging opponents because they're smart and they're designed to kill. What the frick is happening here?
This IG unit, he's like 1.5 feet taller than Padme. He's pretty big. And Padme is just like, I'm gonna beat you up. And so I've got, this is probably the clearest image of what she does. I guess I'll post it in the Discord as well.
She knocks the gun away.
So I went frame by frame. What she does, she doesn't knock the gun away. She lifts her left arm up, and then she just brings it back down, and she just shoves him. And then the gun falls over.
Didn't we have a clone punch a battle droid earlier and hurt his hand?
Yep. But
so how is she getting away with just trying to shove this assassin?
She somehow is able to overpower and throw off the balance of this IG unit. And for some reason when she does that, and he drops his gun for some reason, but then also the elevator they're in, which is a really weird elevator, it's got these openings in it, stops moving. And she starts climbing out, and the IG unit, rather than picking up his gun, grabs her cloak, which she's able to take off and get away. It does not make sense at all.
This doesn't make sense.
But yeah, that
IGs
happened.
are supposed to be scary.
And she makes her way back to Zero the Hutt's room, where he happens to be in the middle of a conversation with Count Dooku.
He just so happens.
And reveals his entire hand. If Padme had a comm link open, or if she was recording anything, then, that'd have been it. But I guess not. So let's just spell out the plan real quick. Zero the Hutt plotted with Dooku to overthrow Jabba. The idea is that he kidnaps Jabba's son, holds him for ransom on Teth, and then the Jedi would see this as their opportunity to gain control of Hutt space. They'll send a Jedi to save Jabba's son, and then Dooku would frame the Jedi, leading to Jabba instigating Force against said Jedi and killing them. The idea after that, because this is said in like 10 seconds of screen time, the idea after that is to get the Jedi to turn against the Hutts in the name of justice, which would give not only the Republic too much time to focus on the Hutts gaining control of this small portion of space so that the Separatists could, continue their stranglehold of the galaxy, but also it would give the Hutts too much to focus on that Zero could supplant himself as the controller of the Hutt clan.
Mm-hmm. Forgot about some stuff, huh?
Let's just go through a few of the things that makes this plot fall apart. This plot falls apart if anyone finds out about it and provides this information to Jabba.
Yeah, this plan hinges on Jabba's ignorance.
This plot falls apart if Jabba even considers the advantage that the Separatists may gain from turning against the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, another point towards Jabba's ignorance. This plot falls apart if the Jedi are somehow able to overwhelm the Separatist forces, which they do.
Mm-hmm.
And then also it falls apart if the Jedi are unsuccessful in, if they don't even reach out, right?
Yeah.
And then it also falls apart if literally one more Jedi is sent to rescue Jabba's son. Right? Like, if Anakin and Obi-Wan went instead of Anakin and Ahsoka, they win.
Yeah.
Like,
it's the plan is too contrived.
it is so insanely contrived
it's,
that I would consider
it's
this
not
like
thought out enough.
I would consider this a plot hole just because there's so much contrivance that I don't believe that this could happen. I don't believe that characters would be so stupid. Like, I don't think that Dooku, as much as I like him scheming, as soon as his hand is tipped and the plot is revealed, I'm just like, man, this is terrible.
This is really bad.
Zero the Hutt as a character is a contrivance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, but we need him later for when he gets killed by his mistress or whatever.
Yeah, but Padme gets caught, and Dooku says to Zero that Separatist allies will pay handsomely for her capture, so she's captured again. And I'm going to just real quick jump back to Anakin and Ahsoka, and then we're going to jump back to finish Padme's plot, and then we'll finish with the rest of the movie, okay?
Okay, sounds
Yeah,
good.
I'll try and go faster because we just passed 2 hours. I'll try and finish this up pretty quick because I took a lot less notes at the end of the movie because after we reached that point, I was like, all right, I think we're far enough in that it's pretty safe to say this is a bad movie.
Yeah.
But we can get to. I mean,
there's
like,
a cool lightsaber fight.
Yeah, I'm talking
We got my phone,
overall.
boys.
Like, we'll definitely talk about the good and the bad of the movie at the end. But so I like this shot that is in on Tatooine. This is where Anakin and Ahsoka, they feel the presence of, I think it's Dooku.
It's the circle.
And so they work together.
Circle of life.
I'd say this is the scene that's the completion of their arc. I would say this is the arc. This is the end of their arc because this is where they finally decided we're going to work together, right? They come up with a plan that we as the audience don't get to see, but they formulate a plan. We don't get to see that until a little later, but we're gonna jump back to Padme just to finish her arc because I don't wanna talk about it too much anymore. Yeah. So jumping back to Padme, Padme is thrown in a cell with all of her belongings that she kept with her, like a gun and a comms device, is set on the table.
Standard procedure.
Yeah. And what ultimately happens is she's got the comm device and it just starts beeping, and a droid is just like, "What is that?" And she's like, "No, don't press it. No, don't do it. Don't turn it on, please don't." And it's just like,
droid's like, "I'm gonna do it."
Shouldn't a droid just know what a comlink is, given that they're like everyone has one?
That's like asking someone like nowadays. That's like asking a kid nowadays.
Don't turn on that phone. Don't press the receive
iPad.
I'm gonna
button.
make a reference. I'm gonna make a reference to another podcast without mentioning what that podcast is. I'm sure Ryan's gonna know right away.
Okay.
But Padme's like, "No, don't press the button. It's dangerous." The droid, "No, it's not. Let's go."
I think a lot of people will know what that is. But yeah, the droid turns on the device. C-3PO is like, "Who are you?" And then Padme tells him where she is. Yeah, I find that really pretty questionable, but yeah, it happened.
It sure did.
So they because
everyone's
of that
confused.
little kerfuffle, Zero calls Padme back in, and he's just like, "Haha, you're too dangerous to be alive," and then help arrives.
Yep.
Um,
Fox.
I did not need to see Zero trying to run away.
I
I did not need to see that.
He's just trying. He's just like, I'm gonna make it.
When I wrote this
Those are
criticism
sounds I
down,
didn't need to hear.
it's not really much of a
Sorry.
criticism as much as it is just cringe. Um,
Sorry.
I just wrote, I
It's
want to
okay.
vomit.
I now realize that what I just did does not sound good.
I was just like,
Look, I was
Ryan, you
just
can edit that out.
pretending to ignore all of that, but
He's like running, but he doesn't have any legs, so he's just like panting really hard.
it's
yeah.
like that one slug monster in like Monsters University who's like trying to get to
Yeah,
class.
yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just the way that it's done, the way they animate it, it's just really cringy.
It is really
And
cringy.
yeah, then they capture him. Yeah, they capture him, and he's just like, "Oh, darn! I'll do whatever you want, just don't hurt me." But
And
yeah,
like,
that's that.
and they're like, well, admit your crimes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
Yeah.
like, oh, well,
So this is
You're
all
under citizen's arrest.
So
no, clones aren't citizens.
so this
Oh
is
my,
all
okay.
this is all happening.
No, that's a plot point
Oh,
in Republic Commando and in these new episodes of Bad Batch that clones are just treated as military assets and not people.
really? That's weird.
Yikes.
I don't know how I feel about that, but all right.
Yeah, and a bunch of senators. Yeah, that's like a whole plot thing
Mm.
of that. There's literally once the war is over, what happens to clones? And
Mhm.
everyone's like, I don't know. And they're like, are they people? And people are like, well, yeah. They're like, well, what are we gonna do about all these clones who don't have insurance and they don't have a plan for the rest of their lives? Because they've been soldiers since they were born.
I
And
feel like
yeah,
clones would be able to use their skills or gain new ones.
I mean, yeah, a lot of them, but
Are you telling me that
Don't you
there
want a
isn't
clone to
single...
do your taxes?
What if a clone just got a ship? They could just pilot someone. They could be a taxi.
accelerated.
Hey,
aging
where you
occurs
going?
with
I'll take you
rules.
there.
You could be a military figure. Like,
Mhm.
why did they have to do that? Why didn't they just have the Empire? I figured all the clones turned into troopers.
They did, but now that they're getting older, they can't be soldiers forever. That's the point. Yeah, they're fine
Okay.
for now, but what's going to happen to them later? Or what about clones
How
who are
fast do they
injured from the
age?
war? Double.
So they age twice as fast.
Yeah.
I just figured they aged twice as fast until they didn't. Because
Nope.
that's what...
always age twice as fast.
Then that's a really dumb concept, because they
Then
didn't
why
know
are
how
they
long
still
this
alive
war was going
during
to last.
Because I know they're still around in what is the show, The Rebels. I've never seen it, but I've seen like
Oh, well,
pictures of
Rebels
them.
takes place like it's 10 years after.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
then I
10
guess that
years
makes
after.
sense. But I was just like,
why
wait,
they
how can
look
they all
so
still be
old.
alive? That doesn't make any sense.
It's because they're really old.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, they would be technically
Rex is around-
speaking in their 40s.
Yeah, Rex is around in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, that'd
What?
be like, yeah, in Return of the Jedi, he's a clone that fought on Endor.
What? Oh wait.
Yeah.
Hang on. I'm looking this up.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Max Return.
So I guess let's just get back on track because we're almost there.
Oh no way.
Yep, it happened. So
They just decided to say the one guy with the beard is Rex.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
That's why they designed old Rex that way.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I guess let's continue. Anakin is walking in the deserts of Tatooine with Stinky on his back. I really like I didn't know that there were 3 moons on Tatooine, and that one of them is like really close.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that, and I think it led to a neat visual. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. But Dooku shows up, and they begin to fight. And in the fight, I really like I like a lot of the cinematography. I think it's a really neat fight. It looks good. Um, yeah, there's a cool reverse shot of Dooku and Anakin as they lock their blades. But after that, Dooku he eggs Anakin on by reminding him that this is he's like, "Oh yeah, this was your birth planet." And even though he doesn't know Anakin's history, he can feel the feelings that Anakin is feeling currently, right? And he feels pain and loss specifically. And he uses that to egg Anakin on. And I think that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Use your feelings against you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Anakin, because of that, he doesn't say anything, but he shoots a lot of sand into Dooku's face, and then Dooku, using the Force because he's still stronger than Anakin at this moment, shoots it right back and then jumps on him to try and kill him, but Anakin still defends himself. Um, but yeah, Anakin, I like that, despite clearly being emotionally manipulated here, he is focusing on the mission and he's not letting his feelings get in the way, which is what happened 2 months ago.
Yeah.
That's a cool detail, even though it's like there's not a lot to it, but it's a neat detail. But then this happens. Anakin is like, trying to get further away, and Dooku slices Stinky, and it's like, oh no. But then Anakin reveals it was just rocks. That's why I was silent, cause you didn't know, you dingus.
Yeah, Dingleroot.
Yeah. And he says, my Padawan is, delivering him to Jabba now. So character wise, I really like that. Because Dooku, he says Ahsoka was gonna fail, like she's not gonna overwhelm his forces, and Anakin says she's more skillful than you think. That was a neat completion of the arc, and I think it's fitting for what they were going for.
Yeah.
And then to finish it off, Dooku like shows what's going on with Ahsoka, and he Anakin, rather than continuing to fight Dooku, he steals his speeder and he runs. So it's like, I'm gonna save my Padawan, and what a weird way to end it. Dooku laughs, and I know that Christopher Lee was really trying for it, but I just did not like that laugh.
Yeah, it was kind of.
It was weird. It doesn't seem like that's something. It doesn't seem like that's something that Dooku would do.
It sounded like the laugh Palpatine laughs in Lego Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see Dooku as the type that would laugh. I could see Dooku like chuckle sinisterly, but
Yeah,
not like
he
full out
definitely
laugh.
would be
Like-
very sinister, and he definitely relish in the idea of a victory, but I don't know if he'd full on laugh. I just thought it seemed
Right.
very very Saturday morning cartoon.
He's
Right.
he's like a very refined individual, and just to see him like full out laugh like that's a Palpatine thing. Palpatine would just be like, I'm laughing because I'm the evil bad guy and I love it.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of the end of Dooku in this, except for like one scene later on. But in totality, I really liked Christopher Lee's voice acting. Like
Yes.
sometimes the dialogue was a little clunky, but man, he's got
He-
some really cool stuff.
He threw his all into it.
There's a line, Dooku says,
You deceive yourself.
and it's such a great delivery. It's really good. So yeah, that's kind of the end of Dooku's arc in the film. So I guess now we'll skip to Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Ahsoka is on her way to Jabba's palace when 3 Magna Guards show up. So I guess before we even get into the fight, what are our thoughts on the idea of Jedi Padawan fighting 3 Magna Guards?
Not good.
Should probably die.
Yeah, that was
Probably.
my first thought. I was like, man, I really like Anakin.
What has she fought in preparation for Magna Guards that are designed to be able to counter Jedi?
I don't know. But I like the character elements of the conclusion of Anakin's arc, but as far as the plot goes, it's pretty meh.
Pretty mid.
Yeah. But yeah, she fights yeah, the fight is very meh. It's definitely not as good as Anakin versus Dooku.
That was very good. I enjoyed
I
that
very
fight.
much enjoyed the Anakin versus Dooku fight, but I did not enjoy this
Yeah.
one. But yeah, there's that. That's pretty much where my notes end. But
they get the baby to Jabba.
Yeah, they get there, and Anakin, you know, he's very concerned over where his Padawan is. He gives up his lightsaber.
Jabba has absolutely no idea what the heck is going on.
He's like, what is happening?
He's like, there was a Sith here, there was a Jedi here, there was another Jedi here, my son's still missing. What's going on?
Just gonna rescue my son? What's happening here?
I kind of just want my son back.
One thing I do find funny is that Anakin, he points a lightsaber at Jabba, like basically at his throat, and then he says, "I came here to negotiate."
that is Anakin's personality, though. I am here to negotiate. Aggressively holds saber to your throat.
Yeah. But yeah, then Ahsoka, she shows up and she's got Stinky, and Jabba's just like, "Whoa, it's my son!
It's my son! Kill them!"
Yeah, he's like, "Kill them," and they're just like, "Oh, come on, man, we didn't do nothing to you. I just threatened your life just a second ago, but come on, I didn't do it." But right before that happens, a transmission comes through because all the arcs are connecting, and it's Padme. It's Senator Amidala. And she's just like, "Hey, I got your uncle here. He's a son of a gun." Yeah, Zero shows up, and he's just like, "Hey, I did it. Yep, it was me. I'm sorry." And I like the way that Jabba is holding his son.
Like a football.
Here, yeah, I'm gonna post that in the Discord. He's holding his son like a little football. And it's just like, yep, that's really cute. That just see, now that's the kind of stuff that I would like. I don't know why this is something that appeals to me, whereas other stuff involving his like Stinky doesn't appeal to me. But yeah, that would just take a lot of thinking to figure that out. But yeah, everything is well. Everything is, you know, all nice as it should be, and the Republic ends up getting control of Hutt space in order to move their troops, and the Separatists are just like, "Aw, you got us this time." But Palpatine is like,
Palpatine's like,
just
it's
like,
all according to my plans.
Yeah, which is neat. I guess going back to another thing that I do really like is this idea that Dooku is scheming in favor of the Separatists gaining control of the galaxy and winning, right? But Palpatine is scheming not so that the Separatists can win, but so the Republic can feel like they need a more militaristic mindset so that he can gain control over the galaxy in a militaristic way. And I like how that plays into Dooku's arc, right? How it ends with Palpatine ready to enact his plans, and he's able to convince Anakin to kill Dooku. That's like, yeah, I like that. There's some problems there, of course, but as far as the characters go, I really like it.
Yeah, I think I've always thought that like Dooku was kind of in on the plan, but then he didn't know that in the end Palpatine was just gonna kind of just dump him for somebody else.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like he thought it would be him with Sidious ruling the galaxy, not him, not part of it. Like Palpatine literally being a groomer here.
Yeah. So I guess we've gone through pretty thoroughly the entire movie. We want to start doing some wrapping up, talking about what we like, what we don't like about it.
Sure.
I guess let's start with Anakin and Ahsoka. I gotta get the right
Anakin
image.
seems like he's pretty in character from not only the last 2 episodes, but at least Attack of the Clones, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, I like that.
He's still very much Anakin. Like, he's growing. He's getting there. He's growing up.
I like
He's still a
the
whiny teen.
So one thing that I do really like that we didn't really talk about at the start, and it's very lightly pointed out here. Obi-Wan was going to get a Padawan, and as it turns out, he was never going to get a Padawan. He was talking with Yoda about the concept of Anakin taking on a Padawan. And my sister and I actually spent a lot of time talking about this as we watched it the first time. This idea that Obi-Wan knew where Anakin's heart is at. He knows that Anakin witnessed his mother's death, and he knows what that brought out of Anakin, right? They have a close enough relationship, or they're supposed to have a close enough relationship, that Anakin would have confided this in him. And he knows where Anakin's mind is at, and he knows what's going to happen. So,
in fact, I'm pretty sure he knows that he and Padme are married.
Probably
like,
not.
Anakin doesn't
point.
tell him. There's a line that was cut out of Revenge of the Sith that reveals that, but I like to think that he does.
Yeah, there's a lot of questioning there. So I would say that that's probably the case, but as far as this arc is concerned, he knows what Anakin is capable of if he turns from the Jedi Order. So he brings Ahsoka in. He brings this youngling in for Anakin to kind of get his mind off of things and focus on something completely different. And I think that works very well because, I mean, you can definitely see how Anakin, like, his relationship to Ahsoka starts off very stilted. It's like, he's not into the idea of having a Padawan, and Ahsoka's just like, I'm ready to learn, but you're kind of a dingus. But then they start to grow, and Ahsoka starts to realize how out of her depth she is, while Anakin realizes that she has more to offer than he realized. And I like their relationship. I like how it grows. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Ahsoka in this movie, I can't deny that they did something very interesting with her character in it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I agree with that. You can see where I think Filoni and the crew were kind of wanting to go with her.
Well, and you can even see that with what Yoda says. There's a point where Obi-Wan is like,
let's just hope Anakin is ready for this responsibility.
And Yoda replies just like,
ready he is to teach an apprentice, to let go of his pupil. A greater challenge it will be.
And it's just like, oh, that's already leading into the finale.
Yeah.
It's like, it's cool. They knew what they were doing. They knew the plan that they had, and they were ready to start executing it. I like that.
Yeah,
next we kind of discussed Count Dooku already. We want to talk about Obi-Wan and just sort of his...
Obi-Wan,
we've already talked about that a bit, but...
Yeah, he's a solid character, I would think.
Yeah.
I think he's very solid. And I think he remains very solid throughout this series, I think.
Yeah, he's cool.
Obi-Wan's just a good character.
I won't say he's a static character. He does have character development, especially in arcs relating to like Mandalore and Satine and all that. But yeah, he remains pretty a reliable character.
Yeah.
Yeah. He at least is in character, and he does a lot of stuff, and they try to develop him a lot more, which I think they do. So, and I think in this movie you get to see a lot of his relation with as a general and with the clones. And he and Anakin seem a lot closer than they are in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. I guess next we can talk about, let's do Padme and Palpatine. Just like talk about each of them.
Ugh.
If I can find the image, where the heck is it?
Padme just seems like she's here.
Yeah. As
Like
much as people,
her voice lines, nothing. No, I'm not saying bad things
What
against
was
her
it that
voice
I
actress, but
wrote?
she
Oh,
seems
it's
so
so bad.
bland.
It's so bad. Oh, let me see if I can find it because I don't I knew I wrote it down, but yeah,
It's just so
she's got
bad.
a good voice actress. She's just got some really weird
Bad
lines.
she
lines.
just has really, yeah, she has bad dialogue.
Uh-huh.
Like voice actress, great. The
Fine.
lines she
She
was
sounds a
given to
lot like
say,
she does. She does like the voice
very
actress is doing her
yeah.
best to sound like Natalie
Yeah,
Portman. I think she's doing
I
a good job.
really like the voice actress. I think that she's pretty good. The problem
Lines
is
suck
that she's
though.
got some really bad dialogue.
Bad lines.
Yep.
I thought Palpatine was okay. I mean, it's
Oh
just
yeah,
basic
Palpatine's
Palpatine.
cool. Yeah, he's
It's
pretty
just
cool.
basic Palpatine, like playing chess with himself.
Uh-huh. I liked it. It's pretty basic just as far as what's happening because I mean, obviously this is more of Dooku's plan than it is Sidious's, but yeah, I liked him. I
He's there.
liked
He's having fun.
there's the moment where he's talking about or like Padme's leaving. It's his last moment in the movie where he tells her like the Hutts are very ruthless, and as she's walking away, his eyes just get really narrow, or is it narrow? You know,
Yeah.
he squints his eyes and it's just like, yeah, that wasn't Palpatine that said that. That was Sidious.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, ooh, that was neat. I liked it.
One quick thing before we keep moving on.
Yeah.
I do like that Ventress knows who Sidious is.
Yeah, like she kneels
Because there's
immediately
only I
when
think there's
he
only
comes in.
there's yeah, I think there's only a few people who know, like on the separatist side, who know that Sidious is in charge.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I know Gunray knows, Grievous knows, and Ventress knows. It's like it's only a select few who know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or at least that there are Sith running things, and it's not like an actual political thing.
Yeah. I guess another thing to say that's good about Padme, just before we move on, is so I guess I do have to say I'm not a big fan so far of the animation style or the art.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that's
It
got to grow
highlights a
on
lot
you.
of physical features.
It's something that's got to grow on you, but Padme as a character, I think she's probably one of the best integrations of the art style.
Yeah, she looks fine.
She looks really good. I like everything about Palpatine except for his face.
His nose is huge.
His nose is weird, yeah. But
like I said, Dooku's head. Dooku's head.
It's so skinny.
Dooku's head, yeah. There's some really weird stuff.
I know
Ahsoka...
the character designs get a lot better as the series goes on, but I would say in these first few seasons, Padme looks good, Grievous looks good, and that's about it.
Yeah, Padme looks pretty good. But yeah, there's some. I know that Ahsoka looks fine just because she's she's a character, right? Like she's a character that was made for this show, so she looks a lot better than many of the other ones. But like, man, I've been holding this back this whole time. I hate the design of like Jabba the Hutt. Looks terrible.
He looks
Yoda,
bad.
that was where I initially said kill it with fire. What did I describe him as? I described him at first when I saw this the first time. I described him as a spoiled raisin that needs to be killed with fire.
Wow.
He
Now
looks
that was
so
harsh,
looks
man.
terrible.
He does, and that was the thing when
Look
I
at his
saw this trailer
hands.
in the theater.
Look at
When I watched the trailer in the theater, and when I saw the first episode, because I did see the first episode of the Clone Wars, I think when it aired, which is Ambush, that has Yoda in it. It just rubbed me the wrong way because it looks so weird. Like just the design.
That's a big part of it. It's just the design is weird. I don't know why they chose this as the style to go for, but
I don't
it's
know
something
either.
you gotta grow. It's gotta grow on you.
Yeah.
I guess another thing we can talk about is the Clone Boys.
Clone Boys! Love my Clone Boys.
That's like the name of our podcast.
Yeah, the
Wow.
clones. So I'm just gonna keep. I don't have a whole lot of pictures of the clones. So I'm just gonna keep that one that I have of Oddball up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I really like that. The intro of the movie, right before we even have the big you know, Star Wars, the Clone Wars, right? There's that
Yeah.
really quick thing while they're showing the Lucasfilm logo of all of the clones screaming at each other. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
like
Yeah.
that's like a calm link of them talking over the radio.
I like that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I think Cody he's not in this movie very much, but like the one shot that they really focus on him in, he's like kung fu, like just destroying a lot of the droids. Like he's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
That was actually focused on in the novelization where Anakin is like musing about the differences between clones and droids, and it kind of gets to that point where he starts talking about like, yeah, droids can't improvise as well as clones can, if at all, and then it talks about like Cody and Rex absolutely like blasting some because they like ran out of gas or their guns jammed or
And
whatever.
we do see improvisation happening to varying levels of success. Right, like I
Hmm.
said, with the one clone that got his heart shot through, like he was improvising. That's not something that a droid could do,
Hmm.
and I liked
But
that.
and of course, as my profile picture shows, we have good old CT Chad there, who absolutely bonkinizes a droid with his whole hand.
He breaks
But
his wrist by punching him.
And then proceeds to get
yeah,
shot.
and then
Yeah,
gets shot.
yeah.
But in my heart, he lives on to be
hmm
It's a good
the
spirit. That's a good spirit. When you run out of bullets, you're the final bullet.
you are the bullet.
Yeah.
I want to believe that he is the clone who goes on to fight on Utapau and boxes a droid.
I remember that scene. I remember
Yes.
that scene.
It's all the way in the background. It's
Yes.
beautiful.
They're just going at it.
I
Just
do
like
like.
fisticuffs.
We said this already, but I do like Rex's line to Ahsoka. In my book, experience outranks everything. That's
Yeah,
like,
Rex is good.
ooh, yeah, that's a really neat one. There are some
He
details
tells,
here. Even though this isn't a movie that focuses around the clones, there are a lot of details that remind you that this is a war fought with clones.
yeah. I mean, heck, we we definitely get to see like that, that whole idea of experience outranking things. Like some of the clones have been here since the first battle of Geonosis.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the random clone commander that we see in the movie of Attack the Clones? Just that
Yeah.
commander who's talking to Mace Windu. He's like, I
Mm-hmm.
have commandos ready. That's Pons.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, he gets named later on. So
Neat. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's pretty much about it with the clones. Unless
Yeah.
we have anything else to say.
Overall thoughts of this film. I think the premise is there. I think there's a good premise for what the story is because it would have ramifications on the war.
Yeah.
I just think the execution of said premise is a little contrived and a little poor. There are some good moments with characters. There are some, good moments here and there, as we've mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But I think overall, the movie's kind of mid. I would say it's for me. It's just. I can't. I had a hard time like getting into it. Like there was stuff that I liked for sure, but I just had a really hard time like liking it as a movie.
mm-hmm.
I think it's just mid. I would say if I were to give it, I don't like giving things rating scales because I have a hard time with that.
Mm-hmm.
I would give it like a 4 or a 5.
Okay.
I'm usually very generous with my score. But I would just say it's mid. Like there's a lot I don't like about it,
Mm-hmm.
and that overall I think really brings it down as a film.
I would say if they had a better reveal for Dooku and Zero, like their scheme, then this as a film would be a far better plot.
I think so.
That's kind of
yeah.
the thing that ruins it for me. But yeah, like you said, I really like that intro. I really love the exposition. I wish that it was explained a lot more throughout like the first act of the movie. But yeah, I get it. I loved that setup. I like a lot in this. There's a lot of really cool character stuff, and the overall arc with Anakin and Ahsoka, really good. I like the character work with Obi-Wan. I like um I like the character of Padme, even if I don't like what she does, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
concept of this, you're having to help the Hutts because the Hutts have something that we really not just want, but we really need. Um, I think that's really awesome. I love that. However, I mean, you've spent the last like 2 hours listening to me go through the movie and explain all of the massive problems of it. There are a lot of things that I think need to be changed for this to be considered a good movie or even a passable movie. But however, like all of that said, this movie would need probably a few redrafts before it's good. Comparatively, the sequels would need full rewrites. Like you have to throw out the entire thing and start from scratch in order to make something that I would consider good. For this, you could take what's already here, change a lot of stuff about it, and even if it's like take this scene for example, take the dialogue, the scene with Anakin and Ahsoka talking while R2 is figuring out where they need to leave in the monastery. That scene, I don't like it because of the bad dialogue. If they just changed it up a little bit, I could go from not liking it to loving it. Because all they have to do is take that same information and convey it in a more natural way, and suddenly you've turned a bad scene into a great scene.
Yep.
That's like, you could do that with a lot of scenes in this movie. So if they did that, I think I'd like it a lot more. I guess just as a final thought to add a number score to this, I'd probably slot it in at, I'm gonna say a 3 out of 10 because of the problems with the plot and a lot of the wonkiness of character decisions. But
Yeah.
I like the world building. I like what they do here. And the plot is mostly solid and the characters are mostly solid. There's just a lot of changes that need to be made.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah. Oof. I feel like this episode's been going on forever.
Yeah, we're approaching 3 hours and I'm ready to be done.
Oh my god. I'm ready.
I swear
final
we're not
thoughts?
going. An episode will only be this long of the podcast if it's like a 4-episode arc. The next one I'm already considering because if we're going to do the 3 episodes in between this and the Malevolence arc, I'm considering breaking that up into 2 episodes so that we just have shorter episodes. But I'm fine with doing all 3 if you want. It's just up to you guys.
I really don't care. It's just I feel like I'm at my limit here.
Yeah, this is a lot.
I haven't
The
really
funny
been
thing
eating
is, this was the fast version of my breakdown.
Oh my
There were so many more things that we could have gone line by line. And
Ryan is the analysis extraordinaire, and I appreciate him for it.
He does the things I could never do.
Yes, he's amazing that way.
All right, well, I guess if that's the end, we're gonna end this because I'm ready to stand up. I'm ready to get going. This is my first time doing something like this. Hopefully, we'll be able to be a little faster. Thanks for joining me, and I'm sorry for holding you guys captive for 3 hours. But thanks for
I had a fun time, man.
This was great.
Great discussions. I love these. I'm kind of shocked there weren't any war crimes in this episode, but that's all right.
There's a potential war crime.
That's probably good.
There is a potential war crime. You are correct, but yeah, all right. I'm ending the recording. We're not doing any crazy outro because I realized it was very difficult to animate, even though it was just 2 still frames. So goodbye.
I'm gonna go reheat my
We're gonna
wings.
have an explosion now. Oh no!